Is the Lightlark series worth it? I mean, I've talked about it so much on the channel. I've had so many reading vlogs on this channel, but nobody knows if it's a good read or not. So today, I'm going to talk to you guys about the 4 main books, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about Grim and Oro, so that way you guys can kind of see if any of it is worth it. And I'm just going to give simple reviews on them and then an overview at the end of the video, so you know if this book is worth your time or if you should just pass by it. Let's start with Lightlark. I started this book in 2024, finished it in 2024. I think it took me about a week or two to read, and this book was amazing. I mean, I literally think about the story of Lightlark to this day, but unfortunately, everything else kind of ranks under. This book was so much fun though, and I just loved it. I'm not the biggest fan of love triangles, so obviously that was not my favorite part of the story, but it was done well. And I feel like that's just all I can ask for, is for it to be done well, even if I don't like it. This book, however, was a book talk phenomenon for a little while, and the way that it's marketed is like, oh, this is something extremely new. I don't think it's the newest thing on the market. Obviously, there's stuff that's similar to this. People compare this book to other books all the time. And then even when Powerless was trending, people said that Powerless and Lightlark were kind of similar. But we don't like Powerless over here. I think they had a few similarities plot-wise, but truly character-wise and everything delved deeper into it. This book is unique in its own way, and it was really fun. Nightbane. This book, just throw it in the trash. Throw it in the gutter. This book was horrible. And it's not because of the plot. It's not because of the characters. But, okay, well, it's partially because of the characters. I did not really like Isla in this book as much as I did in Lightlark. But it was mainly because with this being a YA series, there was a lot, and I mean a lot, of like smut and graphic smut, and I was like, whoa, like, let's take a step back, guys, because this is not what I signed up for. I signed up for a YA fantasy actually, and I'm getting romantasy, but it's definitely not YA. It's definitely not YA. Like how, you know, people say like, oh, it shattered me, oh, the book is YA, but Aaron Warner isn't. Like, no, the book isn't YA, and the characters definitely aren't either. There's a difference. Skyshade. This book at least was a bit better, I will admit, but it isn't my favorite thing that was ever written in the history of books. I think there are definitely better stories out there, but if you've read the first 2 books and you're wondering, should I continue, I would say Skyshade is a worthy contender to continue with and see if you like Skyshade, because this one was better than Nightbane, and I did enjoy this a little bit more, but I do think that story-wise we were kind of getting off track, and I was like, okay, guys, I'm kind of getting just a tiny bit bored, but it wasn't a bad book. And then lastly, for the main series, we have Crown Tide. So here's the thing about Crown Tide. This one is the newest book in this whole series, and genuinely, I don't think it should have been a series. I think that it should have stayed as a trilogy, but instead it's become a series, because I do feel as though it was more for the money side, because had it have been cleaned up and properly ended, Skyshade could have been the last book. And unfortunately, that was not the case. We have this book and I think another or 2 to go. And it really could have stayed a trilogy like it was originally supposed to be. That did anger me. I was like, okay, this kind of feels like a money grab, but whatever, drag out the story if you please. It's not my book, it's not my story. Crown Tide was definitely better, but I don't remember a single thing from this book. I don't remember how it ended. I'm trying to think. I don't remember how it ended. And I feel like people often say, well, that just meant you weren't actually locked in when you read it. No, I was locked in. I had a whole reading vlog where I did an analysis every time that I had something that I wanted to say, and I was enjoying myself. But if you aren't able to write a memorable story, then there's definitely something wrong. Like I said, this could have ended on Skyshade. If it had just been cleaned up and ended properly, we could have really ended on the third book. But to drag it out to Crown Tide was a reach. Because guess what? I don't remember a single thing. The only thing I remember is the end of Skyshade. You want to know why? Because Skyshade was the one that everybody was thinking, oh, this is the last book. So let me pay really close attention to every minor detail. And that's what we did. And it wasn't the last book. Okay. So when I get to Crown Tide, at this point, all I'm thinking, besides the fact that I was enjoying myself, and when you watch the reading vlog, you can see that I was having a really good time with the book. But when you drag out a series, and everybody's expecting for the third book to be the last book, and you have us all paying extremely close attention because we want to make sure that we see how this ending goes, and especially because two characters' lives are at stake by the end of the story. By the end of the story, one character is going to die. That is what we've been told. And one is going to be chosen because it's a love triangle. So you have us waiting on the edge of our seats for the ending of this book, and it just never comes. So you can see how us being locked in the third book kind of disintegrates once we enter the fourth book, because by the fourth book we're trying to see perhaps this is the last book. It is not the last book, unfortunately, and I do think it should have ended on Skyshade. Now, with this being said, I did say that Crown Tide was enjoyable, and it was. I had a really fun time. I think I rated it like 3 or 4 stars, but it really was unnecessary because for a portion of the book, I want to say about half of the book, we were in between 2 places only. And so, unless you're extremely locked into the story, you're bored. And you're wondering, when are we going to change sceneries? Because half of the time, especially when it comes to fantasy books, now this might not apply to every single genre, because in the Midnight Library, the main setting is the library. So it really just depends on the genre, because certain genres can rock a whole story in just one main setting. But when you're doing a fantasy book, you usually have to have about 3 or 4 settings that we can go to. And in this one, we just had 2 for about half of the book. And in those settings, one of those settings, we had a character who couldn't leave. So it was the same thing every chapter we got to that specific setting, and it was like, okay, we get it. Can we move on? Can we switch it up a little bit? So that is my opinion on the main 4. Now let's quickly talk about Grim and Oro, which is over there on that shelf, and I'm not going to go grab it. Grim and Oro, if you've read all of the books and you're wondering, or maybe because I do think that if you're going to read Crown Tide and you have the intent of reading Grim and Oro, please read Grim and Oro before reading Crown Tide, because things will make a lot more sense. Now, if you've read all 4 of these without even touching without even touching Grim and Oro, just leave it alone. It's not worth your time. I do think that if you were to spend your time to read anything before Crown Tide, and I'm gonna say this as someone who used to be a Grim bias, only read Oro side. And you can actually do this by, if you have Spotify Premium, if you go to Spotify, you can actually listen to Oro's entire side and not feel entitled to listen to Grimm's side, which I do recommend, because Grimm's side was literally just a bunch of lust. There was no contribution to the actual story itself. It was just his dirty thoughts. It literally was just that. Oro's actually had plot, and it had build up, and it had importance. So it's the one that you actually need for the whole backstory of it all, and then maybe the first 5 chapters of Grimm's side you can listen to, because I'm not going to say spend $27 to $30 on this flip side book for something you only need to read about one half of, and then read 5 chapters of the other half. it's just a waste of your money. Just listen to the audiobook. You get the same experience. You're going to get the same things. So that is my overview. I read Summer in the City by Alex Astor, and I'm going to say that I think that plain romance is just her genre. No love triangle, no nothing. Because the thing is, I think this is for a lot of authors, though. They have a certain person in mind, and they're going to intentionally make that character look bad. For example, Grimm. And when you do that, it kind of takes the fun out of the love triangle, because I want both sides to be equal. That is my opinion. Do I think that this series is worth it? If you haven't started it, don't start it. It's really just, I'm gonna waste your time. I'm already in the loop though, so I'm gonna stay in the loop. Thank you so much for watching. Midnight Kisses. See you guys next time. Midnight Kisses, and goodbye.